Hi, Hannah. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I have some question about the bottom chakra of our body and also the throat chakra. I noticed that these are the few places that a lot of us kind of like ignore them and didn't pay too much attention.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Are you talking about the root chakra or
Both the root chakra and also the sacral chakra.
the root and the sacral? Okay. So, let's talk about the root chakra first, since we typically go from like a bottom up approach to chakras. Like it's kind of like almost like a pyramid sort of shape in which we move from like our foundation and then we build upon the foundation and we go up. So, with the root chakra, this is the chakra that has to do with, I guess, most importantly in our society is safety and uh, sex too.
Okay. Yeah. And that's I think that actually is one of the biggest issue in relationships, and
Mhm.
also is that a lot of the women that just pay so much attention of like in the head and in the heart, taking care of the family and the loved ones, but not paying attention to themselves, and then actually is that especially people that are in relationship or having a family, husband wife, this becomes the biggest actually challenge.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it's a very individual thing for everybody to really hone in on their safety and security that they feel with themselves so that when they're in relationship they can use that foundation to connect to other people, which
Mhm.
is where sex, and intimacy comes into play. But in terms of building that security with yourself and that safety with yourself, that really comes back to building a relationship with your body first and foremost, I think.
Mhm. And so from yoga, I know that you have experience from that aspect. How would the people, build that foundation? What
Yeah,
kind of
I think
approach?
first thing to start with really is to develop a practice that involves your spine and specifically just being able to sit and do things like cat cows and stuff like that. Loosen up, like I guess this gets a little bit into the sacral chakra, but loosening up the lower body and the hips are really the root chakra, but as soon as we start moving into the hips, then we also start moving into the lower back and the sacral area. So, but in terms of hips and stuff, hip openers, there's a lot of emotions that come up when they're there, and that's all because of the root chakra. It's opening up that realm for us. So, developing safety in that space is very important, which is why you tend to go for grounding in things like hip openers and seated positions so that you can build that foundation and you're not straining yourself or putting yourself out of the safety zone, if that makes sense.
I see. So there's a specific ways in yoga, actually is a specific practice that for the hip, opening up the hip and also movements so that opening up the energy of around the bottom and also the sacral.
Yeah. And I would say that anything that deals with hips, legs, lower back, all of that stuff is going to be related to the root chakra and the sacral chakra.
Uh-huh. Okay. Um, So how can, like for an ordinary person, right, that to say is that, that they have not been exposed to yoga. I know, for example, in Chinese culture that there's also specific ways that they using qi and energy to help people open up the energy. And yeah.
I think breathing, pranayama, anything like that is going to be dealing with that energy, because that's the foundation point. That's where all of the breath, everything, all the connection to the earth, right, is coming from, coming up through your perineum and going up through the hara line or the spine or the, center line of the body, right? So anything that has to do with breath, pelvic floor exercises, all of that stuff is really going to be building some sort of strength and foundation in that realm and in that level of the body.
So there's any specific yoga breathing specifically for that, like abdominal breathing, things like
deep belly breathing,
deep belly breathing.
Really anything, Kapalabhati, like breath of fire, where you're rapidly exhaling through the nose. Right. So that stuff is really, it's all about building the heat inside the body, and that heat is coming from the core of the earth. So it's coming from the foundation, going through your own foundation.
I see.
Yeah. Oh, like I said before, pelvic floor stuff is all really related to that too, because the base of our root chakra, right, is the pelvic floor. It's the bowl of the pelvic floor.
So for a beginner, like usually, like let's say is that they have some good guidance. Obviously, this you're gonna need some kind of guidance from a teacher, because it's not something you can just imagine yourself, kind of doing. Obviously, that yogis and these people, and also the Taoists, I think that they have studied a lot about this, and they definitely have a lot of experience with this. So my question was for beginners, like somebody who, just, because I noticed even a lot of the Chinese practitioners who are into the practice of whether it's Qigong or whether it's Tai Chi or whether it's whatever, there's does not really have a very, very specific awareness of paying, like a special attention. Because what I have noticed is that, or at least a lot of the practitioners I met, is that, like I noticed, usually their top chakras, like their consciousness, crown or third eye, everything, and it's very open. But then, the bottom is kind of like really not in balance, and that not only just the sexual energy, but also is that the whole bottom of the leg strength and all of that is kind of out of balance.
Yeah, and I would say that for anybody who's like a complete beginner to everything, just starting out with like hip exercises, grounding and standing, like being able to stand, bend your knees, and really feel the bottoms of your feet on the floor. And then you can do this seated or standing, but if you just take a hand right to your lower belly, you can do that now actually. If you just take a hand to your lower belly, and I'm talking deep lower belly, so this is below the belly button, right, just above the pubic bone. And you just learn how to breathe into that space and learn how to relax into that space. A lot of people hold a lot of tension here, right? So this is right in the root chakra area. We're trying to develop a sense of safety and a sense of being able to breathe while just focusing on that space, understanding that space, noticing what's happening in that space. And there's no judgment. If you're really tight here and you can't relax here, that's actually perfectly normal with a lot of people in this day and age. So
yeah, right. And of course is that a lot of factors affect very often, especially women, probably is that when they are under stress, and then all of the stress just holds to there, I think.
Yeah, and the pelvic floor will tighten up, and that can cause a multitude of issues and symptoms in terms of other things just because of that stress and tension there.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But I would say that the bottom three chakras are really have a lot to do with our sense of safety and security in this world. So while we have the root chakra, we also have the sacral chakra, which is the next one up. And then we also have the solar plexus, which is that one lives right below the rib cage, a
Mhm.
little above the belly button.
Mhm.
So the root, sacral, and solar plexus all have to do with feeling confident in this world, feeling a sense of foundation and stability, feeling like we are able to put ourselves forward in the world, like we're dealing with the lower half of the body here, which includes our legs, right? So our legs are meant to step forward in the world. They have a lot of confidence and power, ideally, so when we lose that bottom part of our body, we're really losing our grounding into reality.
I see, I see. Yeah, I find that the grounding is so important. And I just never kind of like related to of that how the bottom three chakras energetic, feel that how that actually affects of how grounded and confident ourselves in society. And then of course, that reflects in family relationship. And
Yeah.
so my guess is that that also probably is that, the original family, that how your mother's confidence in the family and all of that affects that also.
I agree because I think that, we take a lot of our parents' nervous system that becomes our nervous system from a really young age. So, as we grow and we unlearn that and we discover what actually is safety, what is grounding, what is, a calm nervous system to yourself, right? It's a lot to unpack if you come from a family where the nervous systems were not calm. There's a lot of stuff, and that generally comes from relationships
Yeah,
between people and dynamics. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.